It's raining outside. I really hate the rain in this town. That's all it ever does, is rain. Drop, drop, drop. I look over to my right at the nightstand beside my bed. The clock reads 3:40 a.m. This always seems to happen. It rains so hard outside that the droplets eventually navigate themselves through the one crack on the roof above my bed. Drip, drop, drip. Each droplet forming a steady rhythm as it hits the section of my bed. I drag my legs over to the side of my bed, slowly lowering myself into the cream carpet flooring. As I hop off my bed, the cage on the other side of my room begins to rustle, and the little head pokes itself out of the tiny bars, squeaking and all. Noelle, my pet ferret, is dancing around in her cage at the sight of me being awake. I walk over to the giant black cage she sleeps in, and stare at her with a half-awake smile. "No, Noelle, it's not playtime now." "Shh," she replies in her normal bratty, I better have my things my way attitude. Drip, drip, drip. Walking back over near my bed, I reached onto my nightstand dresser and pulled out a huge roll of checkered print, black and white duct tape. Examining the pink sheet on my bed, I determine where the water is getting in through my roof. I jump onto the bed, unrolling a section of the tape and ripping it off. Carefully, I place the rip-off piece onto the dripping hole, then threw the duct tape roll onto the floor. Huh, I thought to myself. Why are my bedroom windows blinds open? I thought I closed those before I fell asleep. Blowing it off, I kneeled down onto my bed and closed the black blinds back over to my window, only to catch a glimpse of how hard it actually was raining outside. There was roughly 3 inches of water off the ground. Not surprising in this town, really. The street outside was curved in. I live in a cul-de-sac. I could barely see the house across the street through the darkness and rain. Just then, my stomach let out a growl of anger. God, I need food if I'm ever going to be able to get back to sleep. I walk outside of my bedroom door, not caring if it slowly creak open and make noise. I live alone, so why should the noise level matter? I began to walk down the long hallway leading into my living room, and eventually I found my way into the kitchen. Walking into the doorway, I reached into my right and flipped the light switch on. From where I was standing, you could see 2 windows. One to the right, cleaning to the wall right over to the kitchen sink, and one to the left and in front of me, being the back deck glass door. Looking above me, I was a bit startled. I forgot to have a skylight in my kitchen, which makes sense because if I never really stand out in the room, the only way to really notice it is if you were standing right underneath it. Raindrops were hitting the glass pane of the window quite hard. How did I not notice the sound before? Shrugging to myself, I walk over to my left and open my pantry. Nothing inside of it really seems to catch my eye, due to the fact that all the food in it is required a lot of time to cook. Letting out a sigh, I turned back to the light switch and flipped the lights off. The rain only got harder as I made my way down the hallway and back into my bedroom. Lightning and thunder had started up as I turned off my bedroom light and sulked back over my bed, defeated by the lack of quick and easy food I have. I pulled my bright pink Hello Kitty covers over my neck and let out a heavy sigh, only to hear an angry brutal of my stomach. I turned to my left and looked at the bedside clock. 4:12 a.m. Did it really take me that long just to go and check what's in my pantry? Jesus Christ. I must have listened to the rain longer than I thought. I closed my eyes and rolled over to my right side, giving up on any thoughts of eating. The entire room was quiet, except for the assault of the rain that was making on my roof. And of course, Noelle squirming around and occasionally hissing. I wasn't ready for what I was about to see when I opened my eyes. I froze, and a cold sweat spread across my entire body. My eyes were looking directly outside of the window in front of me, only to see an entity staring back. I use the word entity because in no way was this thing human. Its skin was pitch black and had variety stitches across his face. When its eyes were supposed to be there were only two vertical gray stitches. A hole was right in the middle of his face, so tiny, so minute, most likely this thing's nose. Its mouth was non-existent. Only skin as black as the deepest depths of the ocean was there, despite the fact that this thing has no eyes to stare with. I could still feel its gaze digging into my face. Its head was so close to my bedroom window that the breath from its nose was fogging up the glass. I lay there, my gaze locked with the monster in front of me for what seems like forever. I couldn't even hear the rain anymore. I could only focus on its face and its steady breathing against the window. I didn't snap out of it until Noelle began to hiss violently. My head jerked back and looked at her. She was clawing at the cage bar, begging to be let out. I turned my head back around facing the window, and the creature was gone. No fog, no Stitch's eyes, nothing. Noelle never stopped hissing, but nonetheless, I closed my window blinds and laid on my back in the dark. My hand reaches around beside me in the dark for earplugs. The ones I only use for those nights when Noelle gets too hyper and decides to cause an earthquake in her cage. Was that thing just a trick my sleep-deprived mind played on me? I couldn't stop thinking about his face in my mind. The stitches, the never-ending darkness of his skin, the constant sound of his breathing against my window. I can't sleep like this. It took some time before my mind calmed down and finally decided that I'm crazy and desperately need sleep. I decided to roll over to my right side, eyes closed again. When I opened them, my blinds weren't the only thing that were open this time. My window was completely open. I stared, wide-eyed, at the house across the street in the darkness. That thing wasn't there, staring at me. Taking the chance, I shot straight up the bed and closed my window, making sure the lock was on. Still looking across the street, I noticed my neighbor who lived across the street was looking at me through his window now. His face was twisted into some kind of horrific expression. Then I felt it. Steady, deep breaths on the nape of my neck. I never heard it come into my room.